Great. Thank you. Shalom. Shalom, everyone. Actually, I feel enveloped right now in a very safe space with all of you. Oh, living here now, it's living in paradox. It's really living in paradox. There's so much to be grateful for, and the way we look out for each other. And it's also tiring, not knowing when the next siren, if it will come, where it will come, when. Here I am, though, present with all of you now. So thank you. Thank you for giving me this beautiful sacred anchor for me to dive in and share with you a piece from Rav Kook as we move closer and closer to sitting down at the Seder table and celebrating with our families, with our friends, with our communities, Zman Cherutenu, the time of our freedom. So if you look at oh yeah, and Rachel, could you bring up the share screen with the perfect. Thank you. Okay. So I'll read through the English. You have the Hebrew there for your review later, for those who can read, do read Hebrew. This is a piece that Rav Kook wrote as the introduction to his commentary on the Haggadah. And I have shared this with IJS over the years. I've shared it with a lot of my students, my family. I share it with me. It is so eloquently profound in such a Rav Kook way. It's poetic, it's metaphoric, it's deep, it's symbolic. So let's see where he goes with this. And I pray, my prayer for all of us is that we're able to find a nugget that really resonates with us, that will help us as we're surrounded by so much chaos and unsurety and such negative forces, that through this we may be able to see the positive forces, the forces that really enhance and support good, healthy, holistic living. So he begins in the very beginning, in his introduction, when he says, referring to freedom, which is the theme in our prayer during Passover, Zman Cherutenu, the time of our freedom. He connects that with the Bior Chametz. Tuesday night, we'll search for right now we're cleaning out the homes of our chametz, and then Tuesday night we do the searching, b'tikat chametz, and then Wednesday morning we'll burn the chametz. There's a lot of verbs with this chametz, so obviously it has an important role, and he connects it though to our becoming free. So these two themes are emblematic of the festival of redemption. This is where he uses the term in Hebrew of Geula, where we are redeemed from the enslavement to the Egyptians. And this is also, as I mentioned, in the Tefillah, Zman Cherutenu, the time of our freedom. So he equates the festival of the Geula, redemption, with freedom. What can we learn for posterity from these two what seems to be interdependent themes? The lesson to be learned is that there are conditions necessary for redemption to take place. And it's as relevant now as it was approximately 3,400 years ago. First, we need physical liberation, freedom from any form of servitude that subjugates the divine image in the human being, freedom from any power that demeans the value of the human being, the glory and the holiness of humankind. And if he means humankind, when he writes humankind or all human beings, he means all of us. This is beyond the nation of Israel. This freedom, in turn, though, this physical freedom, depends on the freedom of the spirit. The freedom of the spirit, of the neshama, chirut haruach, the freedom from all that would divert the soul from its essential path. And you may be wondering, he doesn't mention it here, what would be the essential path? Well, there's many answers to that. I would invite you to consider that the main essential path, or one of the most important essential paths of the soul, is connection. Connection with all the different pieces within the human being and connection with other human beings and all other forms of creation beyond the human being. So think of what would keep us back from that. Well, these two forms of freedom come about only with the removal of that which hampers freedom, whether it's the physical or the spiritual. And this is referred to symbolically as the chametz, or what we call in Masachet Brachot 17a, the sa'or shebe'isa. It's really the sa'or, the yeast in the dough. Rashi explains that this phrase, the yeast in the dough, the sa'or be'isa, refers to what the rabbis call the evil inclination in our hearts that spoils us. I would suggest, I would argue that spiritually, the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, is that energy, that suggestion, that part of us. It's really the dark side of us. It's the part of us that where fear and mistrust. It's the part of us that's afraid to connect. It even suggests not to connect. So if we look at that spiritually, we can become enslaved to those forces that hold us back from being our truer, our higher selves, our godly selves. So, and he does make it, he refers to this frequently in his many of his writings. This is the same for the nation as it is for the individual. So he's paying attention here to any one of us on our journey, and also Am Yisrael, even though he died before there was the establishment of the modern state of Israel. He died in 1935, Israel 1948. He already foresaw that it would be sooner than later. He did die before the Holocaust, so we don't know how that would have affected his foresight or his vision, his what he envisioned. But he definitely referred to this new nation that would someday come back to the homeland. Now, just think of the chametz that we have inside of ourselves: fear, mistrust, anger, hurt, all those pieces that prevent us, that we actually become enslaved to and prevent us from feeling more open, more free to explore, to really inquire and research and grapple with possibilities. What keeps us back from that? He would say that's the chametz, the spiritual in the chametz. So he believes it's so powerful, it can have such a hold on us that we actually need to learn how to adapt to freedom. I mean, think about that. You know, it may be very nice. We sit down and say, Zman Cherutenu at the Seder, this is the time of our freedom. But how many of us really do feel free to be me, free to be me, my godly self, my soul-centered self, the life of the spirit? It may take a period of adjustment. And this is what's shown upon us in bright periods of history and shot out as a lightning bolt. It's a verse. He's relying on this verse in Zechariah 9:14. And that's what like this light that's shown out at the time of the first redemption, the redemption from Egypt. Of course, the prophet Zechariah lived 1,000 years later, but reflecting back at what the tradition refers to as the first redemption was the redemption from Egypt. So when there's that bolt of lightning, of illumination, of awareness of possibilities, we may have to adjust to it because we're not used to it. So he then wants us to understand, well, what is keeping me back? Or what does it even mean? Let's say in his time, surely in our time, what does it mean to be a slave or enslaved to? And what does it mean to be free from that? So the difference between a slave, an eved, and a free person is not just of a title, of a social standing, whereby one person is enslaved by another and another person is not. Especially because in most parts of the world today, Most people, not all, I mean, unfortunately, and it's very painful to realize this, not everyone is free from physical enslavement. But thank God, most people are from physical enslavement. So, what is the difference? What does it mean today to be free? So, he believes it is possible to find, and when he uses the word educated, I would translate it more as enlightened or illuminated or more aware. So, it is possible to find an aware slave, meaning aware of the spirit, whose spirit is full of freedom. And conversely, a free person whose spirit is servile. Just want to be aware of the time. Okay. So, what is characteristic of freedom is the exalted spirit, whereby a person or a people, chavre, is able to be faithful to its inner essence. We're on the next page. Yeah, thank you. And I bolded it. It's not bolded in his commentary. I bolded it because that's what I want to draw your attention to. This is a matter of being faithful, notwithstanding the challenges, notwithstanding that it could be difficult at times, but it's worth it because we become faithful to a deeper part of ourselves. And it's the image of God in our midst. This fidelity allows one to feel that one's life is purposeful and worthwhile. So even if one is physically enslaved, one can then be, though, spiritually free. Now, the spirit of servility is quite the opposite. And unfortunately, I have to say, painfully, I see a lot of this around the world today. And it was very much in my own journey, where the content of one's life does not illuminate one's soul, but rather to the conception of beauty and good of the other, who rules over one, whether it be official, like as a governmental decision, like in Iran with the regime of a death culture, preventing people from expressing their own sense of self, or it could be moral. It could be the cultural values, let's say, of more of the West, where there's a lot of pressure. We feel pressured, and we actually can become enslaved to those expectations. So he concludes by saying what dominates one's life is that which the other who rules over one finds to be beautiful and good. So as we conclude this, as we begin to prepare ourselves for our sit, he concludes by saying, brothers, and I will add, and sisters, and all human beings, as we sit down to the Seder, let us take not cognizance that we are royalty. We're called in the book of Deuteronomy. We are the children of a king. We are royalty, a people whose portion is freedom. Israel is not supposed to be enslaved, neither a houseboy nor to be despised. Let us hold aloft the banner of freedom and the removal of what I would add spiritual chametz. And these ideals will come like it's a quote in Psalms, like water in our midst and like oil in our bones as we keep the word of God, Redeemer of Israel. I mean, there's so many different ways to keep the word of God, to guard the matzot. And that's a verse in Exodus 12:17. Keep these two ideals, chavre, freedom and the eradication of leaven, and be redeemed soon, a final and complete redemption. I could only add to that. So the world, the individual, Am Yisrael, all of the world of humanity and beyond human beings will someday celebrate this sense of tranquility, of freedom, of peace, and peace through strength, because it takes dedication and commitment and being faithful to our higher selves. So as we move into our sit, I'll introduce the sit as I always do, as we share one breathing cycle. Let us breathe in the potential of celebrating our freedom as we rid ourselves and gently say goodbye to those forces that are holding us back. And we breathe in the potential, and then we breathe out, visualize actually doing this. And let us now move into silence as we entertain in our mind and in our heart what this means for us to truly be free. I invite you all as we close our sit together to share one cleansing, purifying, free filling breath together. One breathing cycle. Oh, I'm free. I'm free. Yes. Toda, toda lekulam. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Chag Sameach.
Thank you so much, Yiscah. Friends, let's heal today's beautiful practice with an opportunity for those in mourning observing yard sites to recite Kaddish. If you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present for a few moments to support those who are invited to share the name or names of those you are honoring in the chat, either now or after we recite Kaddish. And if you could please stay present if you're not reciting Kaddish. And again, if you're reciting Kaddish with me, please rise in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Thank you so much. Yitkadal,
Yitrash me rabbi,
Yama
Dibrachirute,
Namaste,
Chaykom Yamkum, Chayeduko Israel, Bagalat Zman Karim, Ru Amen, Shme Rabba Barak Me Amaya, Barak Vishtabach Vishtabach Vitalam Vitalam Vitala Vitala Shmei Kudusha Va'ela Minkober Chati B'Shirata Chata B'Nechemata Miram B'Yavama V'Imru Amen Shlama Rabba Bin Shemaya V'Kayim Aleinu V'Yakol Yisrael V'Imru Amen Shalom B'Rabba Shalom B'Rabba Shalom V'Yakol Yisrael Shvei Tevel V'Imru Amen
Shalom, Bimmerma, Puya, Shalom, Alenu Bialko Yisrael, Bialko Yushvei Tevel, Bimru, Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to Rachel Hugot for holding our text space so beautifully, as always, today. And thanks to Susan Kaner for sponsoring our practice. Susan, we're deeply grateful to you again. Thank you so much. As always, if you'd like to share reflection in the chat or ask a question or just share any reflections, as I mentioned, on your experience with today's teaching today, we would welcome that. Thank you so much for that. Yiscah, today was a really nice bookend because on Friday I did a little Bidikat Chametz meditation, but this Rav Kook really kind of put some more content on the bones of that. So I really appreciated that, and we'll definitely print this out and bring it to my Seder, as maybe others will too. To me, the essence of that teaching that you brought, I mean, obviously there are a lot of different facets of it, including that there's more than one kind of way of understanding abdut, enslavement, which we get even from the Haggadah itself, which says, don't be fooled, don't think this is just about leaving Egypt. This is also the first, the Haggadah says the first Exodus was Abraham, and leaving spiritual enslavement. So there are many stories. And one of the brilliant aspects of the Haggadah is that you are reading it and think like, wait a minute, which story is it telling now, right? Which Exodus are we talking about? And you say, oh, it's about all of them. It's always happening. And so this is another teaching that supports the idea that there's physical enslavement, political enslavement, and there's spiritual enslavement, different facets. So in terms of the latter, what struck me as really powerful was this, that how do we know if we're free, or how do we, what's the touchstone of freedom is what he calls the ability to be faithful to one's inner essence, to the image of God in its midst, whether that's collective, that's also individual too, right? I'm taking that, right?
Yes.
All right. And you kind of like, as an aside, threw in from your own life experience about this. And I don't know if you are comfortable sharing about that, but if you were, I think it would be, I would love to hear it. Others might as well. But just to stay with that, so just throwing that out as a possibility, but that's up to you. But I think the question about um, that is a touchstone of freedom. It's just a very interesting, such an interesting way of framing it. Say each of us has our own particular what's the phrase? Inner essence, atzmiyut hapanimit,
Atzmiyut
right?
panimit. Okay.
Atzmiyut, which that the word etzem means essence, and atzmaut means independence, and we all have a right to our own declaration of independence, right? And
Yes.
we all have which presupposes we all have some inner essential uniqueness. And anything that gets in the way, any hindrance that gets in the way of that, that's enslavement, whether it's self-imposed or externally imposed. So I'm just throwing that out to see if that fits with how you understand that.
It's very much how I do understand that. And I will give an example from my own journey. I want to preface it though, although Rav Kook does not say this, so I did not say it when I was teaching it, sharing it, that we need, especially now as we cultivate mindfulness and cultivate honoring wherever we may be along our path, that chametz may be something that a year ago or 5 years ago was not chametz because it worked for me. And if we're alive with our journey, if we're paying attention and we are cultivating mindfulness, that which may have served my best interests may no longer. And sometimes that is the most difficult chametz to rid ourselves of, us because that's the habitual behavior that when we first adopt it, and this is the example I'm going to give, really sparked my soul when I was in the Haredi world in the 1970s for 15 years till about 1990, from the mid 70s to there's about 15 years. And at first it really did excite me. And I felt my higher being, I'm getting close to God. I'm going back to my tradition. And then after a while, I realized, no, it's becoming almost, I felt enslaved to some of the expectations. No, I'm not, God forbid, no one was ever malicious. It's just how I became so accustomed to falling in line to what was expected of me in a more ultra-Orthodox community that I learned from that I could equally be that in any other kind of community. So to free myself from that, and it was not easy, and it was necessary. It was necessary to honor my journey and to realize I'm not in service to my inner essence. I was in service to the rabbis, actually, that for some people it very much resonated, but for me it no longer did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing
Yeah.
that. It's a great example. I'm sure everybody here, in one way or another, has their own, we all have our own stories in that way of realizing that we are subjecting ourselves to external expectations that are not compatible with our own, whatever that inner, the still small voice within us that is guiding us on our own unique path. And it makes it a very, very powerful holiday. People can talk about it both on Deborah Ornstein, my friend and colleague here, Rabbi Deborah Ornstein, is describing Atzmaut is who you are in your bones. That's a great definition.
Oh, I love that. Yes,
that's right,
yes.
Etzem also means bone.
Bone,
So
yes.
we know it in our bones who we are meant to be. Gwen is asking, I'm wondering to what extent are there individual habits that are reinforced within freedom that might actually mitigate, and I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question here, Glenn. I'm going to read it, Yiscah, see if you can. To what extent are there individual habits reinforced within freedom that might actually mitigate freeing both individual and collective enslavement? I think I need a little
Oh,
clarification.
I think I
Do
know
you
what
have it?
I think I know what the question is.
Okay, go ahead.
If we sense this coming out of our inner Egypt, and we can become enslaved to that, so that would diminish. So, and that's why it's so important. This is a definite plug. You know how much I love IJS. This is the importance of cultivating mindfulness. Because if I do it on a daily basis, even just for a couple of minutes, whatever it is, I prefer to do my sit in the morning. I'm more aware of when it's not serving me well anymore. It's not a big shock. It's 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 it it could creep up and creep up where that which we felt free with now is holding us back. And I
Yes.
think if I'm understanding the question, that's what the person is asking.
Yeah.
And the
Well, your story
remedy.
is kind of go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. Well, the remedy for that is mindfulness. And I think if I would have cultivated mindfulness earlier in my Haredi ultra orthodox path, I probably would have left it early. I wouldn't have stayed as long as I did because I would have been more aware.
Right. I get what I was going to say was it may have been that when you first found that felt freeing, right? To
Yes.
find,
No.
right? Because I think I had some similarities in that path as well, where I discovered traditional practice in a way that I hadn't been exposed to, and I felt freed from, all the different packages of things that had led to the dissipation of Jewish knowledge and practice in my own family, and then experienced that, in some ways as getting in the way, and made adjustments along the way. So what you're saying about mindfulness is that really, we have this holiday, but the theme of Pesach is a daily practice.
It's a daily practice.
It's
Yes.
a daily
Yes.
practice. This is Jewish
Well,
spiritual practice, as you said.
so if I could interject just as a response to what you said, in the book Tanya by the first Chabad Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneor Zalman of Ladi, he in chapter 47, he addresses a daily practice of coming out of Egypt, and he quotes the Mishnah that we'll recite at the Seder table, B'chol Dovada, in every generation, every person's obligated to see themselves as if they have came out of Egypt. He adds, he's not, he say he doesn't add to the Mishnah. He adds as his commentary, not only B'chol Dovada or B'chol Yom Vayom, each and every day, a person needs to look at themselves. I mean, I would say he was teaching us to cultivate mindfulness.
Oh yeah.
Because he said daily one should look at one's life to see if they're coming out of their own Egypt. I mean, brilliant.
Maybe even each breath, right?
Well, could be.
Could be. All right. So Barbara is asking, as I reflect, it seems that beneath everything that enslaves me is fear, that my Yetzer Hara is fear. I wonder if you will speak to this, Yiscah. I think about, in terms of this kind of, this deep dive into what this practice that you're guiding us to today is, that kind of moment to moment. What is getting in the way of that inner essence, right? What's the constriction, what's the Mitzrayim, right? And so fear is, part and parcel of that. So what would you say that fear itself is that obstacle, or is it part of, do we need to put fear in that category, or can we think about fear even as a tool for leaving Egypt?
So I would, how I live my life and how I share and suggest to others, the latter. And it's very Pius Etzner Rebbe. It's very much in the B'nai Machshava Tova conscious community, where he believes every emotion, every emotional sensation is an equal key to unlock the door to a greater or deeper spiritual sensitivity to our soul. So it's what I do with the fear. If I enslave me to the fear and it paralyzes me and it defines me, then already that's not the reason we experience fear. Ideally, in the
Mm-hmm.
ideally, the fear, and who doesn't experience, like the PSSNA said, this is a natural emotion, especially
Mm-hmm.
if we're going into the unknown future. Of course, I'm a little bit concerned or fear or afraid or like that is, he would say, and I would say, this is an invitation to explore even further
Mm-hmm.
and to check in with myself. The fear can be, maybe I'm going too fast. Maybe I'm not going, maybe I'm going too slow. The fear, though, is a tool, is a resource. It's not a sign of weakness. It's only when we become enslaved to it and it defines us, that's when it's not good.
Yeah, I would say, and I wonder what you would say about this, since I know you also have an interest in Musar. At IJS, when it comes to things like when it comes to Midot, we call it Tikkun Midot, and it grows much more out of the mystical tradition as opposed to the Musar tradition, I think. And the what you're describing as that, uh, uh, um, the approach that you're describing is more consistent with that, which is to say that you don't have fear and power through it. Say like it's just a matter of will and discipline to power through fear. But actually, everything has the possibility of being a tool in the
That's right.
process. Exactly. Um, so how would you say, I don't know. So how would you say fear could work that way? Like you say, it could be, yeah, you just gave the example of I'm moving too fast or moving too slow or something like that. But it's almost as if there's an instrument panel and that's one gauge on the instrument panel, that there's always fear is always on, right?
Yes. And
And
I
we're
would
paying
say,
attention to that.
so I'll share a short way of understanding Yirat Shamayim, which is the fear
Hmm.
of heaven, which
Hmm.
that never resonated with me. That
Hmm.
I do not support that I'm supposed to be in a relationship where I'm afraid. I like the sense of yirah could also mean ro'eh, to see. So the resource of fear is alerting me to I need to be more aware of heaven. I need to be more aware of God's presence in my life. A lot of fear comes from when we feel lonely. So when I'm feeling, especially if I'm moving into my next new step and I feel all alone, that could paralyze me. But when I feel the fear, yirah, and I see it as ro'eh, it's alerting me to see
Mm.
God's presence holding my hand as I'm moving to my next step. And that's where I'm transforming fear into a sense of spiritual company and alignment with my soul.
Well, that was a gem. So let's take our yellow highlighter right now, or take your pencil and underline that beautiful encapsulation. I love that, Yiska. That's a real keeper. So, to transform your fear into a sense of being accompanied in that, and it's such a good descriptor too. Thinking about, we're at time, so we're going to end. But I'm thinking about seventh day of Pesach, which is the day traditionally understood as crossing the sea itself. So that that image of crossing through the waters and the whole scene at the sea before they go into the waters is so perfect for what you just described, because they're in literally between the proverbial rock and a hard place, right? There's nowhere to go. It's like it's panic time. And God says to Moshe, tell them just keep walking. I'm with you, right? Exactly as you're describing. So what a gift. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Julie Cole, for that correct discussion. We don't have time to get into that, but I also thought about the Rabbi Nachman Gesher Tzarma O teaching. So
Mm.
next time with Yiska. All right,
All
Yiska,
right.
always a bracha, always a blessing. Um, there are a lot of prayers coming your way. We're praying for your safety, everybody's safety there, all people who are in fear right now, legit, real
Yeah.
fear. and sending love to all those who are lying down afraid at night and throughout the day. And may Shalom come soon.
Amen.
And
Amen.
wish you a Zis Pesach, a wonderful Pesach, liberation for all of us to find that inner essential sense of self and be free from that. Be free in order
Amen.
to
Amen.
connect that.
And
Okay, thank you. Thanks to Rachel. Thanks to Susan for sponsoring today's practice. And Susan, may Peter's memory, Peter Fernald, in whose memory we were practicing today, may his soul be a source of great light and illumination for you and comfort and love in your life and for all. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. One more live session tomorrow with Allison Cohn. Hope to see you then. Until then, be safe and well, everyone. Many
Chag
blessings.
Sameach, everybody. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Thank
Yiscah.
you. Toda.
Good luck.